This is Jody Tropiano, the Content Director for Health, and I'm here with Trevor Martin, the co-founder and CEO of Mammoth Biosciences. Trevor, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course, and excited to chat with you about what you've been up to at Mammoth and kind of how you've been faring over the last several months. So we'll get right into it. First off, just, exactly what I said, would love to hear about how you and the team at Mammoth have been handling the last several months and any major updates.
Yeah, so since the beginning and its founding, Mammoth has been really focused on this brand new technology of CRISPR-based diagnostics. And in particular, we've been really interested in applications of that technology to infectious disease. With the onset of this COVID-19 pandemic, we've been extremely focused on adopting this CRISPR diagnostics technology for helping in the fight against that disease. And in particular, we've hit some really awesome milestones around working with UCSF, for example, to publish a paper in Nature Biotechnology with the largest set of real patient samples ever used for a CRISPR diagnostic study, specifically for COVID-19, and saw really great sensitivity and specificity. And also, you may have seen in the last month, we've kicked off this really awesome collaboration with GSK to then take that exciting new technology and really work together to commercialize it for point of care and even at home uses.
Great. And we'll get more into that partnership a little bit later. But I guess first, for our audience who maybe are not experts at CRISPR, what is a way that you would describe it to them and kind of what you're doing with CRISPR in healthcare that would be easily understandable to everyone?
Yeah, so at Mammoth, we think about CRISPR a bit differently from most companies. So instead of thinking about it as a pair of just molecular scissors or as like a gene editing tool, which if you've heard of CRISPR, probably the most common ways it's described. And those are not incorrect at all. We just think that they're incomplete. We really think of CRISPR as this kind of search engine for biology, where it allows us to interface with wet, messy biology in the same way that we kind of interface with computers through software. And once you start thinking about CRISPR in that light, it really kind of opens up the possibilities, and something like diagnostics becomes more clear around, okay, we're telling this kind of mini molecular machine, this CRISPR protein, to go find some DNA or RNA, and it's been programmed to find, let's say, SARS-CoV-2 RNA. And basically, once it finds it, instead of editing it, which doesn't help us too much when it's in a tube that someone spit into or swabbed into, instead telling the CRISPR protein to cut something like a reporter molecule in a high concentration to read out that signal and say, hey, I found the COVID-19 sequence.
Excellent. And that's your detector test?
Yeah, so basically, once the protein successfully finds its COVID-19 specific sequence, and that's a sequence that you can find bioinformatically, saying like, what's a sequence that I only see in that disease and I don't see in human nucleic acids or related diseases nucleic acids. And if and only if I successfully find my target, then, for example, you can tell it to cut many orders of magnitude more reporter molecules, and that can be read out as a signal that's been amplified.
And what other types of tests can that detector platform perform?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of really exciting applications across infectious disease, where kind of right now the diagnostics industry is a bit of a tale of two cities. On the one hand, you have molecular testing like PCR sequencing. In general, great sensitivity, specificity, kind of gold standards typically, but it requires equipment, it requires trained personnel. They're actually putting the tests together and running it. Often requires shipping the sample to some central facility, and a lot of kind of effort just in general around getting that result. On the other end of the spectrum, you have your kind of rapid tests. These can be in like lateral flow format. Typically, these are going to have much lower sensitivity and specificity, but they'll be much easier to use, very scalable, very accessible. And I think really the promise of CRISPR-based diagnostics in the long term is the union of these two fields. So getting a molecular style result in that kind of rapid style format. And that's what we're excited about at Mammoth.
And you touched on it a little bit, but what other challenges right now out there is this technology addressing? And then specifically with your SARS-CoV-2 tests, what is it improving on from the current tests in the market right now?
Yeah, so I think a key thing is the kind of decentralization of the testing, especially if we want to do really wide screening of millions of people at the end of the day. just the logistics of trying to get all those samples to central facilities and then bring them back in any sort of time scale that's meaningful to an infectious disease, which is hours or less. So what we're really excited about is being able to deliver results in minutes that are extremely accurate and are very actionable. And that's really key for us at Mammoth, is giving results that you can actually do something with and that are informative for what steps you should take next, whether that's self-isolating or whether that's going into work or otherwise.
That's excellent. And so was Mammoth always focused on diagnostics? And at what point in the pandemic did you guys decide to kind of get involved?
So since the founding of the company, we've been building diagnostic product. So this is definitely exactly the type of situation that CRISPR-based diagnostics, I think, was built to help with, which is obviously exciting. That there's an opportunity to both help, hopefully in the short term, but also just as importantly in the long term, because almost certainly this won't be the last time we face any sort of disease that has the potential to cause this type of pandemic. It's a matter of when, not if, unfortunately. So hopefully in the future we can be even better prepared, so that we don't have to go through the same amount of pain that we've gone through this time around in combating and isolating and identifying this type of disease.
And so when the pandemic hit, did you guys immediately decide that you had to get involved, or how long did this process take to create this test?
Yeah, so what's one of the advantages of these CRISPR-based diagnostic technologies is that they're really programmable. That's what we were able to do at Mammoth, is within weeks from kind of making the decision that we should create a test for COVID-19, we went from idea all the way through to publishing a white paper on our website that actually had a protocol that anyone could follow for running the test. And then shortly after that, we published a paper in Nature Biotechnology validating the test on the largest sample of real clinical data. And that was a decision that was made very early on, in large part because of the really great relationship we have with one of our scientific advisors, Dr. Charles Chu at UCSF. He's a worldwide expert in infectious disease, so he was tracking this from the very beginning and was very excited about the potential of CRISPR-based diagnostics that we're building at Mammoth to really have an impact.
And so let's get into the GSK partnership now. How did that begin, and where are you at with that partnership now?
Yeah, so we're really excited about that partnership because it really leverages kind of the best of a couple of different worlds. So obviously at Mammoth, we're at the forefront of this CRISPR diagnostics technology. It's extremely innovative, and it's brand new cutting edge work. On the GSK side, global reach, large pharma company, taking this really big bet on innovation, and has a ton of expertise around bringing products to market, around manufacturing, distribution, kind of working with consumers to really deliver them what they need. And that's a really awesome kind of pairing, because it's allowing you to kind of leverage all the different parts of the biotech industry, from just the really kind of startup end of the spectrum all the way through to the major pharma company end. And I think that's kind of one thing that we're always looking at all of our partnerships, is how can we work with companies where there's super complementary overlap, and we can really be true partners, and not just a company that's sending something over the fence and not seeing where it goes. That's really important to us, is a true collaboration.
And do you see this partnership spanning beyond COVID?
Yeah, definitely. The sky's the limit for sure in terms of where this can go. But obviously, our focus right now is making sure we can help out in the short term.
And so when will these tests be available, maybe to a smaller market? And then when will they be more widely available?
So our goal is for the point of care and kind of at-home version of the product, that we'll have that submitted for regulatory review before the end of the year. But of course, faster is always better, and definitely we're optimizing for speed generally.
And how do you see it scaling more widely? So do you think this would be available at, let's say, airports or other points where people are coming in and out at a high level, and you want to make sure that when they get to their next destination, they're not infected?
So that's a great question. And I think there's, as you mentioned, tons of different areas where this could be useful. Anything from points of entry like airports, or bus stations or cruise lines for people that are hoping to get back on cruises, all the way through to sports events, anywhere where you have like an increased risk basically of coming into contact with other people and it's a bit more unavoidable. I think it's all the more critical to have a very rapid test that's very accurate, so that you can gain an additional layer of confidence that you're not spreading the disease.
Yeah, conferences maybe.
Yeah, conferences, exactly, for sure.
So you touched on the accuracy. We know it's fast, which is wonderful, but the accuracy, can you tell us a little bit more about that? And then what clinical studies have been performed to back that up?
Yeah, so that's something that's really near and dear to our heart, because I think at the end of the day, that's one of the most important components of the system. So we very quickly, as I mentioned, in this Nature Biotechnology paper that's been published now, moved into real patient samples. And anyone in the diagnostics industry can tell you that there's a world of difference between synthetic samples and real patient samples. So that was really important to us because you can always hit 100% sensitivity specificity on synthetic, but really the rubber meets the road when you're working with messy real life biology. And even when we took this, really new technology that we had developed to test in just weeks for, we still got 100% specificity and over 95% sensitivity, which was incredibly encouraging. And that's really right in the range of what we see with the gold standard technologies like PCR. And of course, we're always working to improve that to be as perfect as possible. But that was a huge milestone and we're really excited about that.
And so what's next for Mammoth? I know this is your primary focus right now, but hopefully when we get to the other side of this pandemic, what is your next focus and anything that you're particularly excited about for the future?
Yeah, so what we're building is really the platform for CRISPR-based diagnostics. So obviously COVID-19 is the most urgent and important thing that can be worked on right now, but really we can use that exact same technology and that exact same platform for hundreds or thousands of different infectious diseases where having that type of really rapid and really accurate result can be extremely meaningful. And I think that that's really exciting because it really ushers in kind of a new way of thinking about diagnostics and integrating with up and coming technologies like telehealth. And really, it kind of allows you to, for the first time in maybe a century, really fundamentally rethink how do we interact with our healthcare system now that we've seen what's possible with kind of more remote technologies, and now with Mammoth's CRISPR-based diagnostics allowing just a new type of diagnostic technology to be accessible in ways and in locations that it wasn't before.
Very exciting. So any last thoughts or anything else you want to add for our audience?
No, it was really comprehensive. And I think the last thing I would add is that this is not a journey that we want to go on alone. And we're always really excited about working with partners that think that there's really cool ways we can collaborate to tackle really awesome applications with this CRISPR-based diagnostic technology. And definitely very eager to speak with any of those people.
Great point. Well, thank you, Trevor, and congrats on everything you guys are doing. And we're looking forward to see what happens next.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this interview. We're doing our best to keep our health community up to date and informed as the pandemic progresses. So please check back for more interviews and blog pieces with leading health experts, as well as check out our Health COVID resource page for more information. Thanks again.